Hello, I'm Leslie Berger, and I'll be your host for this episode of Renew. Renew is a show about the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University. The College of Forest Resources enables and promotes the conservation, management, and sustainable use of our natural resources. Today's show is going to feature one of the three departments within the College of Forest Resources, the Department of Forestry. And joining me now is Dr. Austin Himes.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Austin. So glad that you're able to join us today. I was doing a little bit about research about you because you are new to the department. You haven't been here very long, and we've had some conversations in the parking lot, but I haven't really got a chance to know you. And so I'm looking forward to our conversation today. But I have a very important question for you, and that is, how does a double major in English and environmental sciences end up on the faculty in the Department of Forestry at Mississippi State?
Well, I wasn't originally a double major. I actually finished my degree in English literature and went back for a degree in environmental science, mostly because I didn't get into my first choice of grad school for English literature. So had I been accepted to grad school in English, it might have been a very different career trajectory for me. I'd probably be studying John Milton right now and writing about Paradise Lost instead of hardwood trees in Mississippi.
That's quite a difference of career choices. But I'm glad that I'm glad that you didn't get your first choice, because I know that we're excited to have you here in the department. You do work, or your previous work has been in the Pacific Northwest. That's where your experience has been. So how do you take the experiences that you have there in the ecosystems that are very different than what we have in the Southeast and bring them to bear in the work that you do here?
Well, it's been a challenge initially. It's a learning curve for sure, because a lot of the tree species here, and there's a lot more of them down here than there are in the Pacific Northwest, are new to me. The first time I saw them was when I came down in February. So I've only been exposed to a lot of the species of trees that you have here for a few months. I've had the opportunity to teach dendrology in the Department of Forestry, which is a class essentially around identifying trees and their different characteristics. That's really helped me come up to speed and learn some of the ecology and the different species that I'll be dealing with here in Mississippi and more broadly across the eastern U.S. as I start my research program.
That's excellent. So I noticed some of the work that you've done in the past has been related to this concept of ecosystem services. And that's a term that has kind of been around in ecology for the last year or so. It's starting to branch out into the general public. But how would you define that word to someone who might not be familiar with it?
Well, the most simple way to define ecosystem services is it's the benefits that people get from nature. There's a related concept that sort of evolved in the last few years out of ecosystem services that I think is a little bit more straightforward, and that's nature's contributions to people. So you can think about all the things that are benefits to us and to society that are possible because of the natural world, whether it's provisioning of goods that we get like timber or food that are grown in the soil, or whether it's the spiritual and aesthetic values we get from taking a walk in the woods on the weekend and enjoying the natural beauty of the world around us.
So I hear your English literature coming back into play there. So that's good. And that's really the next question I was going to ask you about. What you're bringing then, and you heard it in your answer there, was sort of an integrated approach. And the idea of ecosystem services really is an integrated approach. And that may be very different than historical programs where you're talking about wildlife and production of game species, or forestry with production of timber for our use. How do you blend that kind of concepts in the teaching that you do?
So this idea of taking approaches from multiple disciplines, multiple values that we have in society is really at the core of what I'm interested in. And it's a challenging thing to do, to take perspectives from social science, from economics, from forestry, from wildlife, and bring them into integrated projects. But I think that's really the next step in research that we need to accomplish, is not just focusing on one thing, but focusing on all these different things that forests provide for us. And so that's the perspective that I try to emphasize in the classes that I teach too, is that forests and the way that we manage them, the way that we look at them and think about them, aren't important for just one thing. And if we focus too narrowly on just one thing, like wildlife habitat for game species or timber production, we can lose sight of other things that we might be losing through that management action. There's always trade-offs, but there can be synergies too. So there are things we can do that might improve timber management and wildlife habitat at the same time. And those are the areas we should really be focusing our efforts on.
That is very exciting, and it is very refreshing to hear these new perspectives. I think that people who are students in our program or our collaborators on the research that we do are going to appreciate that kind of integrated approach. If one good thing has come out of the pandemic, it has been to show that we are all connected, and whether we recognize that or not, we are. So I appreciate the time that you've given to share with us where you're going here in the Department of Forestry. Maybe we'll bring you back on the show in a year or two and find out how things are going now that you've had a chance to get launched. But I wish you the best as finals wrap up here, and we will visit again soon. We'll be back with just a moment after this break.
Want a career as big as the outdoors? Want to have an impact on the environment? The College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University delivers hands-on training, ensuring clean air and water, wildlife habitats, and a sustainable environment. Creating new wood products and retooling old ones for today and tomorrow. Find a career in whatever path you choose. Majors in forestry, natural resource and environmental conservation, sustainable bioproducts, wildlife, fisheries, and aquaculture. Want a career as big as the outdoors? Choose the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University.
Discovery. It tells our history and determines our future. At Mississippi State University, we're digging deep, unlocking an understanding of our past, validating it. Middle East exploration by faculty and students is uncovering evidence that unravels ancient mysteries. Scholars have long thought of the biblical kings David and Solomon as mythological figures. Our research offers evidence that supports their existence, boosting MSU into an international league of experts on archaeology. Now we're changing the way people think about the past, opening up new possibilities of understanding for future generations. Digging deeper, learning more.
Hi, and welcome back to Renew. We've been learning a little bit about the Department of Forestry within the College of Forest Resources, and joining me now is Assistant Professor Adam Polenko. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
As we were talking to Austin Himes just a few minutes ago, both of you are new to the Department of Forestry, and so we really haven't had a chance to visit, so I'm looking forward to this time that we have. You are a silviculturalist. So for those who don't know what that is, could you explain what it is that you do professionally?
Yeah, absolutely. So silviculture is basically applied forest ecology. So silviculturists are in charge of reforesting stands and also harvesting stands and designing harvests so that they meet a wide range of objectives across lots of different stakeholders. So that may be water quality, visual quality, wildlife objectives, and timber objectives all at the same time.
Yeah, and that's very difficult to do because those things aren't always necessarily compatible within the same stand. Across the large landscape, they can certainly be compatible. I know that that's probably a concept many people don't understand, that you can actually harvest trees in a sustainable fashion. So how do you communicate that that kind of mixed use approach to people who might look at cutting down a tree as being a horrible thing?
Well, the most important thing to remember is that compared to other building materials like concrete or steel that have a fairly large impact on the global carbon cycle, wood is a renewable resource. Um, we all live in wooden buildings and use paper products a lot without really realizing that those products actually come from trees. Um, Now, alongside their impact on the global carbon cycle, forests provide uh, many different ecosystem services, including wildlife habitat and even recreation value. Um, Myself and I think many other people in the world enjoy spending time in forests. So connecting those values together is important in communicating the value of forests from many different perspectives.
Sure, sure. I know that one of the things that you do is use a lot of quantitative techniques to be able to analyze what's happening on the forest. And for those that might not be familiar with that word quantitative, that just means math. You know, a lot of numbers, mathematical approaches to that. Many people might not recognize that there actually is a lot of math in the science that we do. So could you just give a little overview of how you're using these quantitative approaches in forest management?
Absolutely. So I don't want to scare anybody off when we say that there's a lot of math involved in what we do, because a long time ago I was one of those students who was maybe uneasy with the concept of math. But what I was really interested in is understanding how trees grow. And my research involves understanding the development of forests through time. And when I learned that I could describe tree growth and forest development using math, I became very excited about using quantitative tools to describe what I was interested in. There's sort of a creativity in using quantitative approaches or math to describe trees.
Right. So it's really just another language that we use that we can use to describe what's happening there on the ground. And what I think that's most interesting that you just shared was that this was something that might have put you off, but in the end you realized this is just a tool to be able to answer these bigger questions. So I appreciate that comment. I also appreciate you taking time out of your day. I can see that you and I are going to have to visit some more in the halls of Thompson. But until we have a chance to do that, I wish you the best through finals and through the end of the year. I hope the rest of you have enjoyed this time that we've had here at Renew and learning a little bit more about the exciting work happening in the Department of Forestry. Until we get to meet again, please take care